Today, what we're going to go over are 5 ways that highly charismatic people neutralize objections without any force. And how they do it are 5 distinct ways that we're going to go over real quickly in this particular video. And most people don't know this, but in 2002, I came out with a couple of resources about objections, Objections 101, and how to handle objections, every objection in 30 seconds flat. And they became the foundational teachings pretty much for the direct sales profession. This today, we're going to be adding some charisma juice, if you will, into this, because I want you to understand how highly charismatic people neutralize objections without force, and these 5 quick tips will help you tremendously. Number 1, charismatic people validate the emotion before addressing any logic. What do you mean? They thank them. They say, I want to thank you for bringing that up, or you have every right to say that, or, well, that's interesting. Explain to me why you said that. But make them understand that emotionally, you understand, you acknowledge the emotion behind the objection. One of the ways I used to do it all the time is when somebody gave me an objection of no time or no interest, well, I appreciate your honesty on that. I really do. Let me ask you another question, though, because the moment that you acknowledge, you validate from a charisma standpoint, you validate and compliment them for bringing it up, guess what? Their objections aren't going to have very much power, because suddenly you have acknowledged their emotion. You have acknowledged that they're smart enough to be asking this question. This takes away a lot of the sting, if you will, of objections. And I've said that over and over and over to people that have given me objections. I say, I really appreciate you being honest, and I understand. But let me ask you a question. Every single time you move back into the conversation, let me ask you a question. So validate the emotion. They have every right to bring that up. Thank them for bringing it up. Or, you know something, I appreciate you being honest. Let me ask you a question. This is the reason why the highly charismatic people, they take objections down pretty quick without any force, because they acknowledge the emotion and they validate the objection from the prospect. Number 2, they reframe the objection, if you will, as a sign of being smart, not hesitation. Did you get that? They reframe the objection as a sign of being smart, not hesitation. I used to say, when somebody gave me an objection, I'd say, well, you've been thinking. Obviously, that's good. Because what you're doing is you're pouring into them a compliment, saying, you've been thinking, and that's good. I may not agree with your objection. Let me ask you a question. Now, you don't say that, but that's how that you do it. When you treat the objection as something smart, something that they came up with that you acknowledge is good and proper, the buyer, the prospect, they feel respected. They feel validated. They feel approved of, because I've said it over and over and over again. I really appreciate you bringing that objection up, because, to be honest, that shows you're thinking, or that shows that's a very smart question to bring up. This is how that you neutralize objections, through the power of charisma and understanding. You must let them reframe it as something smart, something intelligent, and they will feel respected. They will feel the defenses will go down, and then they'll move towards you, because every time you emotionally make them feel good about bringing the objection up, guess what? They will move emotionally closer to you. Number 3, they ask a question. Highly charismatic people ask question after question after question, because it shifts the buyer from fear to their self-image. Let me explain. A well-placed question can get the prospect totally out of their defenses. And my question was always, you know something, I really appreciate you bringing that up. Let me ask you a question. Could you further explain how that works? Could you further explain why you said that? Could you further explain? Because the more that you ask a question and get them talking about the objection, highly charismatic people understand. They'll talk themselves out of it often. Because, again, when you go into exploration mode and say, you know something, I really, really appreciate that. Let me ask you a question. Could you clarify? Could you tell me exactly what you meant by that? Or could you explain why you said that? I'd love to know. This is how that you do it, because, again, you're pulling them towards you by making them feel good about and their objection. But more importantly, you're teaching them something that you're not afraid of the objection. You've got confidence for the objection. Only thing you want to know is explore it further. Number 4, they separate the purchasing concern, if you will, from the buyer's self-image. Did you get that? They separate their concern over, should I really do this, or I don't have time, or I don't have interest, away from their self-image, which makes them feel better about themselves. Because when you make it clear, the objection is about the situation, about the product, about the circumstance, or anything else, not about them, they feel better about it. They don't feel as shameful, because a lot of times when people bring up objections, this is what I found to be true. Folks, people like you and me, we don't want to do that. We don't want to make them have a guilt trip. But when they do bring up objections, often they feel shameful. And when you separate the buyer's concern from the buyer's self-image, then their defenses go way down. And it's a very simple thing to do. You know something? I understand what you just said. I really appreciate you bringing that up. Let's talk about that circumstance. Did you get what I just said? Or let's talk about that condition, or let's talk about the timing. You're separating it from the self-image. So number one, they validate the emotion before ever addressing the logic. They reframe the objection as a sign of intelligence, not hesitation. They ask a question for more explanation that shifts the buyer from fear to curiosity, and they separate the buyer's concern from their self-image. Number five, they future pace the buyer into the version of themselves who already solved the problem. Did you get that? They take the buyer in their mind into the future, into that version of themselves, into that person that they would like to have see completed, fix this problem, and then show them that you've already solved the problem. By helping them imagine the outcome they actually want, they say, well, the pricing is too high. Well, I'm glad that you shared that with me. Let me ask you a question. What if we figured it out to where you could actually make money doing this, and at the same point, you would not have to worry about the price? Or, I understand about pricing. Let me ask you a question. What if we could work something out to where the price would be lower because you became a wholesaler? There's lots of different ways to do this. And if you're a regular B2B and you've got a product, and they have a I like what I have, you know something, I'm glad you like what you had. Thanks for sharing that with me. I'm not here to tell you to give up what you've got, but there have been many advancements, to be perfectly blunt, in this technology or in this area, and I just wanted to share it with you. This is how that you handle an objection without force. You make the person feel good about bringing up the objection, then you ask a question, redirect, and start talking about the circumstance that they just mentioned versus themselves. That's how that you do it. Guys, we're doing something special here, and I would really encourage you to subscribe to this channel. I would also encourage you to follow. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop the thoughts down in the comments and give me your thoughts about this, because if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them as well. I would encourage you to follow this, subscribe, spread the fire.